I clutched the receiver, my knuckles white, feeling the cold plastic press against my ear in the dimly lit payphone booth. The fluorescent light flickered overhead, casting shadows that danced around me like ghosts of my past. I heard Director Foster's voice, distant and clinical, asking me what had gone wrong. Irritation laced my tone as I responded, struggling to articulate the chaos swirling inside my head. The silence on the other end felt heavy. It pressed down on me like a vice, suffocating my thoughts. I knew my resolve was crumbling. Every strained word I managed to speak felt like a piece of my carefully constructed future dissolving into nothingness. Each second stretched out painfully as I replayed the haunting images from earlier that day. My heart raced at the memory of what I had witnessed. I tasted the metallic tang of fear in my mouth, a bitter, familiar companion now. The encounter had shaken me to my core. My mind raced with questions that had no answers, each one gnawing at the edges of my sanity. "I can't do this anymore," I finally blurted out, breaking through the oppressive silence that surrounded me. "John," Foster said, his voice sharp and urgent. "You need to calm down and think this through." But how could I calm down when every instinct screamed at me to run? The weight of my decision settled heavily on my chest as I spoke the words of my resignation. They hung in the air like a death sentence, irreversible and final. A moment later, I slammed down the receiver with an urgency that surprised even me. The dull thud echoed in the confined space like a gunshot. I stepped back, my breath quickening as reality crashed over me in waves. What had I done? My mind raced back to Derek and our last hike together, a time when life felt simpler before we stumbled upon secrets that threatened to unravel everything. Suddenly, a chill swept through the booth as if something invisible had passed by. I looked around, half expecting someone or something to emerge from the shadows, but there was only darkness and silence pressing in from all sides. Anxiety tightened its grip around my throat. It was suffocating and relentless. My thoughts turned back to Chief Bill Henderson and his ominous warnings about strange occurrences deep within those woods we loved so much. Was this all connected? Had we unknowingly unearthed something best left buried? My stomach churned at the implications. Secrets woven into our family's histories were now surfacing like specters from a long-forgotten grave. I needed air, fresh air, to clear this fog clouding my mind. Leaving the booth behind, I stepped outside into the rain-soaked streets of our small town where puddles reflected distorted images of streetlights flickering nervously above. Each drop that hit my skin felt like icy fingers trailing along my spine. As I walked aimlessly down Main Street, memories flooded back, Derek's laughter echoing through those same streets during summer nights long gone and how carefree we used to be before everything spiraled into chaos. But now every sound seemed amplified. The distant rumble of thunder mingling with whispers carried by gusts of wind made it feel as if someone or something was watching. In that moment of vulnerability, doubt crept in again. Was I making a mistake by stepping away from everything? A voice inside urged me to reconsider. Perhaps walking away wasn't an option anymore, not after what we'd uncovered together. A car passed by slowly, its headlights illuminating another figure standing at the corner ahead, a woman draped in a long coat with her hood pulled low over her face. Something about her presence sent shivers racing down my spine. She seemed out of place amidst familiar surroundings. As she turned towards me, her eyes caught mine for just a heartbeat before she vanished into an alleyway shrouded in darkness. My heart pounded wildly as confusion set in. Who was she? Why did it feel like she held answers just beyond reach? I took another step forward but hesitated. Shadows loomed larger than life here. The weight of secrets hung thick in the air around me once more. Maybe it wasn't just about resigning from a job anymore. It felt as if there were deeper stakes at play. Determined not to let fear dictate my next move any longer, I followed her into that alleyway where uncertainty thrummed beneath each footfall, a pulse echoing within myself urging discovery despite every warning bell ringing in protest. If you're intrigued by what lies ahead and want to uncover more layers behind this unfolding mystery, leave a like. I sat on my wobbly stool, the stale air of the Arkham office a constant reminder of my new, unglamorous reality. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, casting a harsh glare on my dual monitors that felt more like prison bars than tools of ambition. I glanced around at the other agents, veterans who moved with practiced ease, their fingers dancing over keyboards as they pieced together mysteries that eluded me. In contrast, I was stuck with a single flickering screen that seemed to mock my every attempt to regain my footing. I remembered the sting of Director Foster's words about my last assignment, a minor surveillance gone awry in Salem. Those words replayed in my mind like an old record with a scratch. They fueled my desperate need for redemption. The embarrassment still stung, and I could feel it creeping back into my skin as I recalled how I had let everyone down. My heart sank further into the pit of despair as I thought about how far I had fallen from grace. The tension in the office thickened when I picked up the manila folder resting on my desk. Its rough texture felt oddly comforting against my fingertips, as if it held answers to questions I hadn't yet formed. The faded red "classified" stamp was a silent challenge to my competence, a reminder that this was my chance to prove myself. Just what lay inside? I inhaled deeply and opened it cautiously. As I leafed through its contents, unease settled in like an unwelcome guest. The pages contained reports filled with mundane details, nothing explosive or thrilling, but something deeper tugged at me. Each line spoke to me about routine and monotony, whispering that this was what happened when someone fell from favor. You were left with the small stuff. My pulse quickened at the thought. This was how it began. A slow descent into obscurity where ambition drowned beneath bureaucratic tedium. Suddenly, a commotion erupted across the room, pulling me from my spiraling thoughts. Ashley had just received an urgent call from headquarters. Her expression morphed from concentration to alarm within seconds. My curiosity piqued as she gestured animatedly while speaking into her phone, her voice rising above the usual hum of chatter filling the office. "What do you mean there's been another incident?" she exclaimed, pacing back and forth like a caged animal. My heart raced at her words. Something significant must have happened if it warranted such urgency. The atmosphere crackled with tension as fellow agents leaned in closer to catch snippets of her conversation. I wanted to join them, to listen and perhaps even share in their excitement, but instead, I remained rooted to my seat, feeling more like an observer than a participant in this unfolding drama. As Ashley continued her call, fragments of her sentences filtered through the air: unexplained phenomenon, forest, connection. Each word pierced through me like arrows, igniting a flicker of hope that maybe today would be different. At that moment, I realized this assignment could be more than just mundane paperwork. Perhaps it held a thread connecting me back to significance and purpose within this organization. With newfound determination coursing through me, I grabbed a pen and began jotting down notes from Ashley's conversation, the whispers of mystery rekindling the spark within me. "You know what this means," she said after hanging up abruptly, her eyes scanning our small group gathered around her desk. "There's been another sighting near Cascade Mountain Range." My breath caught in my throat as memories flooded back, my hike with Derek and our discovery of that manila folder buried beneath leaves, a revelation we had barely begun to understand. Had we unknowingly uncovered something larger than ourselves? The thought sent chills cascading down my spine. Ashley continued speaking about dispatching agents for immediate investigation while I struggled to keep pace with everything unfolding before me. My fingers danced over the keyboard as if possessed by an unseen force. Adrenaline surged within me as each keystroke brought clarity amid chaos. "I'm going," I declared suddenly, surprising even myself with the conviction behind those words. As others turned their heads toward me in disbelief or skepticism, I felt heat rise in my cheeks but refused to back down now that I'd spoken out loud. "John," Ashley replied hesitantly while raising an eyebrow at my audacity. "You're not assigned to this case. But if there's any connection between what we found last time and these recent incidents," I argued passionately, "I can help. This is what I've been waiting for." A silence enveloped us momentarily. Everyone exchanged glances filled with doubt yet tinged with intrigue. They were weighing whether or not they believed in me, or perhaps whether they thought this was just another misguided attempt at validation on my part. Ashley sighed deeply before conceding reluctantly, "Okay then." Her tone shifted slightly as she added softly but firmly, just remember, tread carefully." A surge of anticipation flooded through me when she handed over preliminary reports detailing sightings near Cascade Mountain Range, the same area where Derek and I had unearthed our secrets weeks ago. This wasn't merely work anymore, it was personal now, and there was no way I'd let fear hold me back again. With determination igniting every fiber of my being like kindling catching fire under duress, I gathered necessary materials quickly, my heart racing faster than ever before, and prepared for departure while mentally preparing myself for whatever awaited us out there hidden within those woods once again. In that moment of frantic preparation, amidst whispers echoing around me about shadows lurking beyond trees' edges waiting patiently for unsuspecting souls, something told me one thing clearly: this time would be different. As I stepped out into the rain-soaked streets outside Arkham Office Building, each drop hitting skin awakening senses, I couldn't shake off feeling that destiny awaited somewhere deep inside those woods calling out loudly. I opened the thin, yellowed file, the faint, musty scent of aged paper filling my nostrils. The moment my fingers brushed against its surface, I felt a shiver run down my spine. This document was a portal to the past, whispering secrets that had long been buried. I steadied my breath, unsure of what I might uncover within those fragile pages. As I turned to Agent Thomas Brennan's clinical report from 1955, I braced myself. The implications felt heavy in the air around me. The first few lines detailed what appeared to be a meteorite strike. My brow furrowed as I read on. This was clearly an elaborate cover-up. How could something so extraordinary be reduced to mere bureaucratic language? I felt my heart quicken with every word, each sentence pulling me deeper into a world of mystery and deception. A chill coursed through me despite the humid office air as Brennan noted a non-human scream from deep within the heart of the inferno, a sound he couldn't explain. My throat tightened as I imagined that haunting cry echoing through the trees. I continued reading, absorbing every detail like a sponge thirsting for knowledge. The description of blackened trees reaching toward the sky like skeletal fingers sent waves of unease through me. This wasn't just a natural disaster, it was something far more sinister. My fingers trembled as I turned another page and saw illustrations depicting small, complete skeletons of animals, evidence of devastation that went beyond a normal fire. The very thought twisted my stomach into knots. Then came a revelation that struck me like lightning. Brennan had found 10 non-human bodies meticulously arranged in a shallow grave near the wreckage. The implication was staggering: a survivor had buried them before succumbing to whatever chaos had unfolded that fateful day in 1955. My breath hitched in my throat as I grappled with this new reality. They had known about this potential survivor and deliberately buried the truth for 66 years. A wave of anger surged through me. How could they keep such information hidden? What moral debt did they owe to those lost souls? I thought about how easily trust could be shattered when kept in darkness for too long. My hands shook as I closed the file, overwhelmed by the weight of what I'd just learned. This wasn't merely an assignment anymore, it was personal, a matter entwined with my own family's history. I glanced around the office, suddenly acutely aware of its mundane surroundings. The buzzing fluorescent lights overhead and the quiet hum of machines seemed unbearably oppressive now. Each agent moved through their tasks with an ease that felt foreign to me, while my mind swirled with thoughts of betrayal and cover-ups. At that moment, I realized that this agency wasn't just about solving cases or maintaining order, it was about controlling narratives and manipulating truths for their own gain. My pulse raced as I considered what action I should take next. Revealing this information could lead to consequences far beyond anything I'd ever faced before. With renewed determination flooding through me, I stood up from my wobbly stool and paced back and forth across the cramped space. The walls felt like they were closing in, suffocating under the weight of secrets too heavy to bear any longer. My eyes darted back to Brennan's report. Could it truly be possible that there were forces at play we hadn't even begun to comprehend? I looked at my colleagues again but couldn't shake off the sense of isolation creeping over me. They were oblivious to what lurked beneath our everyday tasks. How many more secrets lay buried beneath layers of red tape? What other histories had been rewritten or erased entirely? As thoughts whirled through my head like a tempest, dread pooled in my gut at what this meant for Derek and me. Suddenly, Ashley's voice broke through my spiraling thoughts like a siren song. Her frantic tone slicing through the tension-filled atmosphere once again drew my attention back toward her desk where she had resumed her phone conversation with headquarters. "This is bigger than we thought," she exclaimed, her urgency echoing in my ears as she continued discussing incidents tied to unexplained phenomena within our beloved forests. It struck me then, if they knew something significant was happening out there in those woods we once hiked together without fear or concern for anything other than enjoying nature's beauty, what kind of danger lurked just beneath our feet? Would revealing these truths only put us all at greater risk? As Ashley concluded her call with a grim expression painted across her features, one that mirrored mine, I realized we were standing on unstable ground filled with buried truths waiting desperately to resurface. I took a deep breath and steadied myself against the edge of my desk, clarity sharpened within me amidst uncertainty. Today wouldn't end quietly. It would become a catalyst for change, a reckoning against silence that had reigned too long over all our lives. And so began my journey into unearthing not just buried facts but perhaps even finding redemption amidst chaos, a path fraught with peril but one that held potential for truth to finally emerge from shadows cast by decades worth of hidden agendas. Today marked not merely another day at work, it signified awakening, an escalation towards confronting ghosts best left undisturbed yet demanding recognition nonetheless. I clicked the audio links on my laptop, plugging in my earbuds to focus on the frantic calls emanating from the speakers. The moment the first voice came through, a chill ran down my spine. Dwayne Patterson's breathless tone described wreckage in a clearing, and unusual bones near their camp, each word laced with barely contained panic. I could almost visualize him, eyes wide with fear as he relayed every terrifying detail. "John. We need help," he gasped, and my heart raced at the urgency in his voice. "There's something out here, something wrong." The static crackled ominously as I strained to catch every syllable. I felt like an unwilling spectator in a horror film, my pulse quickening with each word. Then, Jessica Morris's voice broke through next, her tone tight with barely controlled panic. "It's huge. Filthy. Crawling with bugs. I saw it watching us from the tree line," she exclaimed. The vivid imagery sent a shiver coursing through me. My imagination conjured all sorts of horrors lurking just beyond sight. My stomach knotted as I realized this wasn't just an isolated incident, this was escalating rapidly into something far more sinister. The tension in my chest tightened further when Director Foster's casual instruction replayed in my mind, "Evaluate what's actually there." Now it resonated with chilling new meaning. It was no longer merely an assignment, it was a direct challenge to confront my growing unease about what awaited me out there in that remote Maine forest. As I leaned back in my chair, trying to process everything, I felt a wave of determination wash over me. This was more than just another case, it was a thread connecting me to the past I had only begun to unravel. My ambition to prove myself warred fiercely against the undeniable sense of dread tightening around me like a vice grip. How could I ignore these calls for help? I glanced at the clock on my desk, time slipped away like sand through fingers as minutes passed unnoticed. Each second felt heavier than the last, pressing down on me with escalating urgency. My instincts screamed at me to act, to not let fear paralyze me while others faced real danger. Standing abruptly, I paced across the small confines of my office, feeling trapped between two worlds, one foot rooted in safety and comfort while the other yearned for truth and adventure amidst unknown horrors. My mind spun with possibilities as adrenaline surged through my veins like wildfire. In that moment of indecision, doubt crept in. What if this were just another wild goose chase? What if Dwayne and Jessica had misinterpreted what they saw? But deep down, I knew better. Instinct told me they were onto something significant, a revelation buried beneath layers of mystery stretching back decades. I shook off hesitation and headed toward the door, resolving not to let fear dictate my choices any longer. This wasn't just about uncovering old secrets, lives could depend on it now. A sense of purpose ignited within me as I grasped that handle. It felt like stepping onto a precipice between safety and uncertainty. With each step toward the exit of Arkham's sterile office building, echoes of Dwayne's distress calls followed me like shadows clinging desperately to their source of light. The air outside hit me like a cold slap, the crispness sharp against the warmth of resolve building inside. As I walked through the parking lot towards my car, images flooded back, memories from childhood hikes alongside Derek filled with laughter and innocence now shadowed by looming dread about what lay ahead. The Cascade Mountain Range loomed large in my mind, a place where we had discovered secrets intertwined with our family's histories. Turning the key in the ignition sent vibrations thrumming through me as anticipation mingled uncomfortably with anxiety bubbling beneath the surface. A part of me longed for clarity amidst chaos, another part trembled at what awaited beyond familiar borders. The engine roared to life as I navigated away from Arkham's constraints towards deeper woods, toward uncertainty wrapped in whispers carried by rustling leaves and distant echoes hinting at hidden truths waiting patiently beneath layers of time. Suddenly everything fell silent, a stillness enveloped me that felt unnatural against nature's backdrop, a warning perhaps? My pulse quickened once again as dread settled heavily around my shoulders like an unwelcome cloak. Arriving at that fork leading toward our old hiking trail felt surreal. Nostalgia battled against instinctual fear clawing at every rational thought lingering within me. Memories intertwined with uncertainty danced before my eyes, Derek's laughter fading into echoes tainted by shadows lurking among trees surrounding us once upon a time when innocence prevailed. I steeled myself for whatever lay ahead, the weight of history pressing down even harder now as realization dawned. This journey wasn't merely about exposing hidden truths anymore but confronting fears etched deep into my very being. Determination surged anew within me. Today would mark either redemption or reckoning. I could no longer turn away from fate entwined with those frantic voices begging for help echoing inside my mind. I knew I had to go. I felt the thick, humid air of the remote Maine forest pressing in on me as I began my hike, my digital recorder clutched tightly in my hand. Each step crunched softly underfoot, the sounds muffled by the dense foliage surrounding me. I took a deep breath, inhaling the earthy scent of damp leaves and pine needles. The atmosphere buzzed with an unsettling energy that sent prickles up my spine, making me acutely aware of how alone I was in this vast expanse of wilderness. As I ventured deeper into the woods, I saw the fallen trees first, ancient and moss-covered, radiating outward from a central point, just as Brennan's old report had described. My heart raced at the thought of what lay ahead, anticipation mixed with dread as I pushed through the underbrush. The sunlight filtered down through the canopy in patches, illuminating the way like a spotlight guiding me towards something inevitable. When I approached the clearing, my heartbeat thundered against my ribs. The scene before me was surreal, a barren patch of lifeless earth where nothing grew. It felt as if nature itself had recoiled from whatever had transpired here. As I stepped cautiously into the clearing, I found myself engulfed by an eerie silence, every sound absorbed by the oppressive atmosphere. The world around me faded away as my focus sharpened on what lay ahead. There it was, the wreckage. Broken in two and covered in rust and creeping vines, it loomed before me like an ancient relic of some long-forgotten tale. My stomach twisted at the sight. This was unmistakably artificial and unmistakably not from Earth. A rush of adrenaline surged through my veins as I crouched beside it, marveling at the bizarre construction that seemed to defy logic itself. I shifted my gaze downward and discovered something even more astonishing, a skeleton, approximately 4 feet long with a narrow skull and a single curving ribcage lay partially exposed among the wreckage. Awe mixed with deep unease coursed through me as I reached out to touch it, my fingers trembling slightly against its cold surface. What had happened here? Questions swirled in my mind like leaves caught in a whirlwind. Suddenly, a faint rustle echoed just beyond the far edge of the tree line, a subtle, unnatural movement that instantly froze me in place. My heart dropped into my stomach as panic surged through me. This was no ordinary sound found in nature. The instinct to flee battled against an insatiable curiosity that rooted me to that very spot. The realization hit me hard. Whatever had crashed here wasn't just an artifact of history, it could be something far more dangerous than I had anticipated. My objective shifted from analysis to immediate survival as that sickening certainty washed over me like ice water down my spine. My breath quickened as I tried to remain quiet, scanning the edges of the clearing for any sign of movement. With each passing second, fear tightened its grip around my chest, shadows danced between trees like phantoms waiting for their moment to strike. Just then, something flickered at the periphery of my vision, a dark silhouette darting between trunks before vanishing into obscurity. I stood frozen for what felt like an eternity, weighing whether to investigate or retreat back into safety's embrace. My instincts screamed at me to run while reason fought back. There was no backing down now after coming this far. In that moment of indecision, I recalled Derek's words earlier about facing fears head-on, not letting them dictate our choices or define who we were meant to be. With renewed determination coursing through me, I took a cautious step forward instead of retreating. My pulse thundered in my ears as I strained to listen for any further sounds. My surroundings became hyper-realistic, every crackling twig and whispering breeze heightened my awareness. If there was anything lurking within those shadows watching me now, they would surely know they weren't alone anymore. Then came another rustle. A low growl emanated from behind one of those towering pines nearby, sending chills racing up my arms. Every muscle in my body tensed at once as fear surged anew. This wasn't merely paranoia, it was instinct warning me of impending danger lurking just beyond sight. At that moment when reality threatened to unravel completely around me amidst uncertainty and terror, clarity broke through like dawn chasing away night's shadows. I needed to document everything while there was still time left before whatever hunted us made its presence known more vividly than ever before. With shaky hands but unwavering resolve now ignited within again, I turned on the recorder, capturing each frantic breath rasping against silence enveloping us both, the last echoes fading away into uncertain oblivion. I stood frozen, the entire forest falling into an unnatural, oppressive silence around me. My training screamed at me to assess the threat, but all I could do was stare into the shadows, heart racing in my chest. The world felt suspended, as if time had lost its meaning in this isolated pocket of reality. Then, through a break in the dense foliage, I saw it. At least twice my height, the creature moved with a ponderous, almost ancient grace, its feet resembling exposed tree roots trailing across the ground. The sight was mesmerizing and horrifying all at once. It defied everything I had ever known about life on Earth. My breath hitched as I watched the surface of its body ripple and pulse. It was covered in dark, fertile earth, not crawling insects but the very skin of the thing undulating with its own alien vitality. A shiver coursed through me as I attempted to comprehend what lay before my eyes. I felt an overwhelming sense of profound wrongness wash over me, a primal fear that bypassed all rational thought. Every instinct I possessed screamed for me to run, yet also demanded that I observe this impossible being. My mind struggled to process what I was truly seeing. As if sensing my presence, the creature turned slowly, deliberately, its form shifting like smoke caught in a breeze. Its face emerged from that same rippling earth matter. Dark hollows where eyes might be formed appeared to absorb light rather than reflect it. Those hollow orbs locked onto mine with an unsettling recognition. It knew I was there. The realization sent shockwaves through me, a chilling awareness that transcended words and understanding. An unspoken connection surged between us, one that ignited terror deep within my bones, an acknowledgement that I never wanted. Panic surged through my veins like fire, every muscle in my body tensed at once as fear gripped my heart with icy fingers. I stumbled backward instinctively, breaking eye contact as adrenaline flooded my system. My only thought became survival. Escape from this nightmarish encounter consumed every ounce of clarity left in me. Without looking back, I fled, abandoning my carefully prepared mission and plunging deeper into the shadows of the forest. Branches whipped against my skin as I navigated through underbrush thick with tangled roots and brambles, breath coming in ragged gasps that echoed ominously against the silence surrounding me. Each heartbeat thundered in my ears as fear propelled me forward, each step fueled by the desperate need to put as much distance between myself and that unholy presence as humanly possible. The air grew heavier around me, every rustle seemed amplified against the backdrop of my own panic-stricken flight. I heard nothing but the sound of my own footsteps until a low growl reverberated from behind. The creature had sensed my flight. My heart dropped again, it was too close. With renewed urgency coursing through me like electricity, I sprinted faster than I ever thought possible through a terrain designed to ensnare rather than assist. I glanced over my shoulder for just a moment. There it was again, gliding effortlessly between trees like some wretched apparition born from nightmares. The reality of what pursued me sent waves of nausea crashing into my gut. There were no words for this terror, it transcended comprehension. Branches snapped beneath its weight while leaves whispered secrets of impending doom, every sound amplified by dread laced within this cursed forest. Panic clawed at my throat, all sense of direction vanished as fear transformed each shadow into something sinister lurking just beyond sight. I burst out from a cluster of trees into another clearing, my lungs burned desperately for air, but there was no time to pause or reflect on where I might find sanctuary from such dread. My mind raced with questions. How could something like this exist? What had brought it here? But those thoughts evaporated instantly when another growl echoed behind me, a primal sound that resonated with raw power and malice. With a renewed sense of purpose igniting within me, I dashed toward higher ground, an instinctive decision driven by desperation rather than logic. Each step propelled by sheer willpower alone, I leaped over fallen logs and ducked under branches while keeping an ear trained for any signs of pursuit. Then came another rustle, a low growl emanating just behind one of those towering pines nearby sent chills racing up my arms once more. No longer could rationality anchor me amid chaos, clarity shattered beneath relentless panic. I needed to escape this waking nightmare before whatever hunted us made itself known more vividly than ever before. I pressed onward until exhaustion threatened to overwhelm every fiber within, but surrender wasn't an option now, not when darkness loomed at every turn. In those frantic moments filled only with raw survival instinct, I swore silently to myself, never again would curiosity lead me down such treacherous paths. As terror gripped tighter around me like cold iron shackles, I pushed myself harder, determined not only to survive but also to emerge stronger despite having faced unfathomable horrors lurking just beyond reach. I remember that day clearly, the moment I called Director Foster from that dusty payphone. The words, "I'm resigning," slipped from my lips with a sense of liberation, yet they echoed back like a death knell, final and irrevocable. It felt as if I were stepping off a precipice into an unknown abyss, leaving behind the ambitions that once fueled me. A profound shift had occurred within me. The ambitious young agent was replaced by a man haunted by an inexplicable truth that threatened to consume me. The realization of what I had witnessed weighed heavily on my conscience. Had the alien bodies merged with the forest? Were they nourished by the earth, becoming something entirely new and unfathomable? My mind spiraled into endless loops of questioning as I tried to grasp the enormity of it all. Each thought felt like a thread unraveling in my psyche, weaving a tapestry of dread and confusion. At times, I would catch myself staring into the distance, lost in those dark memories. I knew I had gone off-grid, not hiding from the agency but from an irrational fear that gnawed at me relentlessly. What if that creature remembered me? What if it longed to understand our connection? Those hollow eyes would invade my dreams, watching with an unsettling recognition, and I'd wake up drenched in sweat, heart pounding against my ribs. I felt as if every encounter shaped a new layer of reality around me. Today, when I look back at that moment in the forest, the creature's form shifting before me, I realize some experiences can't be explained, they can only be felt. My understanding of existence morphed into something more complex and layered than before. The shadows in my mind grew darker with every fleeting thought. Each night held echoes of its growl reverberating through my bones. I found myself wandering aimlessly through familiar streets, once filled with promise now draped in uncertainty. The faces of old friends blurred into mere specters passing by, their laughter was a distant echo against my newfound reality. There was no going back to who I used to be. My life became a series of moments punctuated by fear and unanswered questions about what lay beyond our comprehension. What happened in those woods was not merely an encounter, it was a transformation, a shift not just within myself but perhaps within something far larger than any one individual could grasp. The weight of shared burdens grew heavier on my shoulders with each passing day, leaving behind remnants of lost innocence. In quiet moments, as I lay awake at night staring into darkness, images flickered through my mind, shadows moving just out of sight, whispers carried on unseen winds, a reminder that some truths are best left unspoken. But there was no escaping it, those memories bound themselves to me like chains forged in fire. I stood outside during one particularly restless night, staring up at the stars blanketing the sky like scattered diamonds across velvet fabric. There was beauty there, an infinite expanse, but also an overwhelming sense of isolation washed over me. That vastness mirrored my own internal struggle, a longing for connection yet knowing how far removed I truly was from everything once familiar. Time passed differently now, days blurred together as I wrestled with nightmares that refused to fade away into oblivion. The very fabric of who I was unraveled under pressure while simultaneously intertwining itself with fear's haunting embrace, an awareness that lingered uninvited yet undeniable. And still, there were fleeting moments where clarity broke through, the understanding that this experience might serve as a catalyst for growth rather than just despair. Perhaps one day I could transform this burden into wisdom, something tangible that could offer insight instead of suffering. Yet even amidst these reflections, doubts crept in uninvited. How could anyone ever comprehend what lay beneath those dark hollows? What truths remained locked away within them? Would they ever be revealed or forever remain shrouded by shadows? Finally, I found myself standing at another payphone late one evening, not unlike the first time, gripped by conflicting emotions surging through me like wildfires igniting dry brushlands across parched earth. In that moment between breaths hung choices laden with consequences unimaginable before. I understood now, each decision leads us down paths entwined with fates unseen yet intimately felt, a reminder we are all connected despite how isolated we might feel at times. As I walked away from that phone booth for what would likely be the last time, I realized this journey has changed more than just one life, it has altered perceptions about existence itself. The world will never again look quite so simple nor so clear. Did you like this story? Leave a like, comment your thoughts and subscribe for more stories.